You know I'm right. Nick Durst here with Joe Calabrese. And Joe, I know you're excited for this one because you are a big Jets fan, and you can catch our guest, to quote her colleague, only on SNY.
Yeah, that's right. She's been the Jets beat reporter for SNY for quite a few years now. She joined there over 10 years ago. She is a tomboy sibling and mother extraordinaire. Definitely has some expertise in those fields, and we're very excited to have her on this morning. We welcome Jeané Coakley to You Know I'm Right. Jeané, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I got a beautiful background for you. So
Love it.
there you go.
A lot of energy.
Looks great out there, and
Doesn't look too great down here, but we'll manage.
it must be nice to escape the city sometimes, because you're not from a big city. You're from Virginia. So what was your childhood like? Did you play a lot of sports, and how did you find your passion here for wanting to potentially go into a sports career?
Very nice. Well, how long do we have?
As long as you need.
I was actually born in Virginia. My father was in the military, so he was stationed in Langley Air Force Base. Born in New York, or born in Virginia, but pretty much grew up in upstate New York, where I am now, Plattsburgh, New York. Grew up next door to a dairy farm. I have an older brother who is about 2 years older than me. Younger brother, about 2 years younger than me. I have twin sisters, identical twin sisters. That my parents had a midlife crisis, and 10 years later, we just were always outdoors playing. I always had to be with my brothers. I wanted to keep up with them. I wanted to play sports with them. I wanted to be with them. I did everything from gymnastics to swimming to skiing to soccer to volleyball, hiking. Just always, my parents always stressed be active. We didn't watch a lot of TV growing up. We were just always outdoors playing. As you can see, we had an unbelievable backdrop to play in. Then was a decent athlete for where I graduated. My school was K through 12, same building. So it was a very, very small school. I was a decent athlete, all state in 2 different sports. I thought I was big and bad. I was an MVP in volleyball here in little Plattsburgh. However, got a touch of reality when you went downstate. It was like, oh, you mean people are better than me? What are you talking about? Love sports, got a couple scholarships to play at D3. D2 volleyball and softball, but I didn't have the passion. I didn't have the love for it. I didn't want to get up in the morning and work. So I decided, why don't do the next best thing? Let's watch and talk about sports. So I went to Quinnipiac University, majored in communications, broadcast journalism, interned at WTNH. It's the ABC affiliate with John Pearson, who is still there to this day, who actually introduced me to my husband now. So that's a long story. And just started the grind, went to Montana, covered the rodeo, covered you name it, Billings, Mustangs, then went to Arizona, chasing that dream, high school football, basketball, the senior Olympics. We're talking 90-year-old women, throwing the shot put, and I was covering it and loving every second of it. Moved to Indianapolis, got to cover, the Colts, the Pacers, but also high school basketball and football is unbelievable there. Not to mention NASCAR, IndyCar. I mean, I fell in love with motorsports, which if someone would have told me 15 years ago that I would love it. I watched Indy 500. I was like, come on, Elio. I was so excited. And then been in New York covering the New York Jets for the last 11 years. So knock on wood, it's been a fun ride, exciting ride, and just was chasing that dream.
Sure as hell has. So my mom she's one of 6.
Oh,
and her 2 immediate brothers, she's got her oldest brother is immediately 2 years, and then there was one in between. So they won boom, 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 one right after the other, 1, 2, 3 in a row. So definitely have the familiarity, especially in my family. My mom was kind of like a tomboy too. She was kind of like an athlete growing up.
You have no choice if you're in between 2 brothers.
Absolutely. So definitely super competitive. I imagine, with having the whole brothers, you always wanted to compete against them. My mom was kind of the same way. But speaking of competition, I have a bone to pick with you because we are rivals. I went to Marist. I studied and I graduated in communications, and I am a Red Fox. So I don't take Bobcats too lightly.
Okay, well, in fairness to myself, I was actually a Brave 2 years, and I went to Quinnipiac College. So I'm not even sure where you're in your conference when I was in school.
You guys weren't, but now you are.
So
That
okay.
was something that happened.
It's a grandfathered in rivalry.
Yeah, it is a grandfathered in rivalry. But also, both
Great
schools
school,
are.
by the way.
It
Great
is.
school.
My best friend went to Quinnipiac, and yeah, I think there's a lot of familiarity there too, because I think both schools are really good mirrors of each other. Both of
100%
them
agree.
have strengths in the same areas. I know a lot of people who went both, but I'm just busting chops.
I love it. Like I said, I love going to Quinnipiac. Was a smaller school when I went, just like Marist. I got accepted to Syracuse and was headed there, but it was just too big for me. I wanted something small and
too cold.
Well, I'm from upstate. I'm from Plattsburgh, so it didn't really. It was actually a heat wave for me to go to Syracuse, just more snow. So I just, and it's funny because now in our, we're in the business where everybody's like, oh, what school did you go to? Syracuse, this. I'm like, last I checked, I'm a Quinnipiac grad and I'm in the same place you're at. So
Right. Doesn't it bother you, Jeané? Like, I mean, I can't even imagine the SNY newsroom during March Madness, how disgusting it is hearing all these Syracuse people thinking that the Orange are going to win the championship.
As an 11th seed.
It drove me crazy. And then Eamon is a Notre Dame guy. And it was so fun. I got to bust his chops because Quinnipiac was we did nothing. Actually, we got our butts spanked to Iona. But still, I was joking with him like, oh, Notre Dame, really? They're just as bad. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, he's just locked in his lacrosse right now. But
I know. But yeah, Syracuse.
Basketball as well.
The best day of my life is when Syracuse loses. The best day of my life.
I can imagine. Yeah, it's just unbearable.
It's unbearable.
But your children, they're going to be set up for success here athletically. I mean, the genes are just fantastic. You were an athlete, all right? You, the big volleyball star, and your husband. Not only was he a great basketball player, but he also played minor league baseball. He was Tim Tebow before Tim Tebow. Playing baseball is like, I'm going to go play the NBA now, and he does that. So your kids are set up for great success here. But last year we're all locked in, and there's a big documentary that comes out, The Last Stand. Oh. Obviously, your husband, Scott, played on the Bulls. So what was it like watching that with him?
Well, it was awesome, but I am going to throw out that he is the first person to ever be drafted in the first round of 2 professional sports. Not Kyler Murray, Scott Burrell was. So if you need a trivia, question and answer, there you go.
It's a great bar trivia question.
I'm just letting you know, because everybody's like, oh, Steve Young, No, Scott Burrell. Anyways, it was fun. It was a lot of fun because I'm older than you, obviously. It was just back in the 90s when you got to watch those Bulls team. I mean, I didn't know Scott from a hole in my head. I was in high school. But just to see Michael Jordan, the way he competes, I don't think athletes compete that same way anymore. I feel like back then it was just like, you go to the hole, you go to the basket, you're getting hammered. I mean, and just to see, they don't get days off. They didn't get to have days off. And to hear Scott talk, like when Scott and I met, he was obviously a coach. I didn't even know that he had played with the Bulls, to be completely honest with you. He coached at Quinnipiac. He was assistant coach there. He was the head coach at Southern Connecticut. John Pearson interviewed him. I just knew him as, hey, that's a cute guy from Southern, who's a coach at Southern Connecticut. I had no clue. And then obviously you learn the history, but just to hear Scott talk about his days playing with Michael, and then just how intense he was and how he just pushed, and how you didn't have a day off. You gave everything. It was just so cool. And then to see it documented. And the funny thing is, when Scott and I first started dating, I actually got to see, he had a DVD of his part of The Last Dance 10 years ago. So I actually got to see it. So I knew kind of what to expect. But the funny thing is, everybody thinks Michael bullied Scott. Scott's like, Jeané, I could have left. I didn't. Michael and Scott are very, very good friends. And Michael pushed Scott. That's what Scott wanted. Scott loved the fact that he expected more and wanted more. He taught Scott how to be a professional player, how to want it, how to win a championship. And everybody's like, a lot of people are like, you should have fought him. I don't know why your husband didn't fight him. Just what are you talking about? Why would I fight this man? He's making me better. He got me a championship ring. And again, they golf all the time. They're very good. Like Scott said, I was there for 1 year and Michael wanted me in this documentary. Like there was
Right.
no need. So it's like there was no need for me to be in this documentary. He punched Steve Kerr in the face. Like obviously he thought highly of me to want me to be part of this.
Right. Don't mean a thing if it ain't got that ring, but you got the
Thank
ring.
you.
So
That's just
there you
it.
go.
Exactly.
Worked out
And everybody's
well.
like, aren't you mad your husband like it was a little baby? I'm like, I didn't know him. I was in high school. I hope he was enjoying his life as a single man winning championships with Michael Jordan 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Right.
Like,
So your husband, he's off doing his basketball stuff, and you start your career here. You head out to Arizona. How did that opportunity come about for you with KYMA?
awesome. So I first started in Billings, Montana as a
Okay.
news producer, like right out of college. I could not get a job anywhere. Like I was, first of all, horrible on air. And I didn't really know much about it. And I applied everywhere for like months and months and months. No, I couldn't get a bite anywhere. I sent my tape back then, VHS tapes, like mailed them all over the place. Like at one point, my parents were like, why did we pay for this communications degree? Like, what are you going to do? Like, you got to start working. Like, so I finally got a job offer in Billings, Montana to be a news producer. But he said that on my off days, I could come in and like work my way up and work with the sports department and do that. So I'm like, you know what? This is my opportunity. All I need is a foot in the door, and busted my butt, loved it. I learned how to produce a show, what goes into it, everything about a show I can appreciate now that I'm on air because I know how hard the producer is working.
Right.
I know how hard the teleprompter guy is working. I know that and the graphics, I understand it. And then I moved to Yuma, Arizona for my first on-air sports job. It was awesome. It was so cool. I got to shoot I shot games, I edited. Like Friday night, we had a Friday night football show. Like we were going to shoot all these football games. I would have highlights written on my hand, like because I just cut it and I was like, running to do the show. And like, it was just, you learned so much. I learned about the business. I learned about, holy cow, we have 3 minutes to fill and I have like 17 games to get to. Learn how to move out of the way when I'm shooting a football game because people are going to run back and hit you and or you're going to get hit with a fly ball. Like you just learned all that. And then I moved to Indianapolis where I had a photographer, I had a producer, and so my job was just to be good at being on air. And that's where I kind of learned how to interview people, how to not be intimidated by athletes because it's somewhat intimidating walking into a professional sports, into a locker room as a female where I was on high school field interviewing high school kids. But at that point, I already made my mistakes. I knew, and I was confident in what I could do. And I learned in this business that the people who are really, really good at their job are willing to help others. So I had an unbelievable group around me in Indianapolis from other competing stations, from, AC, Chris Widlick, Chris Hagan, Jason Spells, Rich Nye, like they made sure, and they're from completely different competing stations, but they made sure I knew, like helped me out if I had a question. I'm so grateful for that. And I want to pass that on to other people because like I said, I learned like if you're really good at your craft, then you're willing to share it with other people. You want people to succeed.
Yeah, so from going from Billings to Yuma, you were kind of more of a big fish, small pond, much smaller ponds. Now you're in Indianapolis, which is one of the 20 biggest media markets in the whole country. The pond gets bigger. I wouldn't even say it's a lake, and you go from covering high school sports and you go from, I assume, covering collegiate sports. Now there's the opportunity there where you're covering bigger things. You're like, there's the Indianapolis Colts, the Indiana Pacers, right? You have all the great, college basketball in the state of Indiana.
And I covered Greg Oden and Mike Conley Jr. in high school.
Wow.
There you go. When they were McDonald's top,
Yeah, because they were right
prospects.
in Indianapolis. I covered them at a high school game. It's crazy.
Right. So how did your responsibility grow? Did they give you a lot of the bigger stuff immediately? Or was that something that you had to work on because you spent 4 years there, right? So did they trust you with those assignments immediately? Did you have to transition there and kind of grow into the role a little bit before you ended up getting those opportunities?
I did have to grow into that role, but they were, Anthony Calhoun was my boss. Chris Widlick was my boss. I think like AC was the main sports guy then, and then Chris was the sports director. It was weird, but we were all a group. And then I had Ivan and Joe Stoll, who are our photographers, and then Brad and Jimmy as our producers. They never put me in a position where they knew was in over my head. They always made sure. But they let me cover Colts game right away. They let me cover Purdue games. They let me go because as I learned, and I'll be honest, I was scared poopless. I'll keep this PG. I remember the first time I went into a Colts practice, I was sweating. I didn't sleep at night. I made sure I knew everything. Like I'd never been into a locker room because in Yuma, Arizona, you covered college, but I covered the junior college. Like I didn't, but as I learned, it's the same thing. Interviewing someone after a high school game is kind of the same thing. I mean, football is football, whether it's a high school kid, a college kid, or an NFL. Sure, different levels, but it's all the same thing. You're still talking about the same game and you're still talking about the same emotions and the same situation. Hell, a lot bigger scale. I'm not comparing high school, but as a journalist, that's what I learned. And every day I'd get more comfortable, more confident. And then I started traveling with the team. I started, Jeané, go there, go there. And I never said no to assignment. I loved what I did. I would work 40, 50 hours. I mean, I would get in at 12 o'clock in the afternoon and work my butt off. And they'd send me, Jeané, they knew I was prepared. They knew I was ready. Like someone might be better than me on camera, but no one's going to outwork me. And that was just that's who I am as a person. That was growing up with two brothers. You might be physically stronger than me, but you better believe I'm going to figure out a way to do exactly what you're doing. You're going to swim across the lake. Okay, I'm going to do it too. I'm just going to need a little more time. So I think that's how I kind of transitioned. I didn't realize I was doing it at the time and they were helping me, but slowly they were easing me in. But I was always an equal with them. I was always treated like, hey, if Chris can do it, Jeané can do it. If AC can do it, then Jeané can do it. Like I never felt like, but I was scared to death. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I still get like, oh my gosh, like I got to go interview who? Like when I interviewed Robert Saleh the first time,
All right.
I was like, oh my gosh, I have to interview. Like I still get that anxiety, but I want that anxiety because I think that's why I love the job so much, because you want that excitement. You want those butterflies.
Yeah, certainly. And you touched this a little bit earlier, but tell us, the exhilarating experience, because there's always here about covering the Indianapolis 500 or the Brickyard 400.
Have you guys ever been?
No, never been to a NASCAR race.
No.
Have you ever been open real race? Like again, if someone would have told me when I moved in, because you spend all month of May at the Speedway, I remember thinking to myself, I am not covering race here. Like it's not even a sport. Like it's not even a sport. I'm not doing this. Like I can't believe this is good. Oh, let me tell you, my comeuppance, it was in my face. Like really, it is awesome. The feeling of when you start the Indianapolis 500 and the flyover and the singing, it's an experience like no other. Like it is the coolest situation. And I actually got to take a lap in the Motor Speedway on I don't remember who my driver was. Sam Hornish Jr. was my NASCAR guy. I can't remember. God, I'm so crazy. Mario Andretti.
Wow.
That's who it was. Like, why am I like, I know it's someone big. I got to take 4 laps, and when we hit 215 in the 2-seater, your body, like the G-forces affect your body, and like you've got to be in tip-top shape. I can't imagine doing that 200 laps. Like again, I was put into my place. I mean, it is, and just the pit stops, just everything you have to plan, how you do this, when you do that, when you're getting fuel, when you're like, it's just such a strategy. And these guys are athletes. Like I flew with the Blue Angels, and I truly believe fighter pilots are the best athletes I've ever been around. They have to be what they put their bodies through.
If you personally were a race car driver and you won, would you prefer to kiss the bricks or drink milk? Those are the two big celebrations.
I'm drinking the milk just because of the history.
Yeah.
Like just because of like the Indy 500, like it is the largest sporting event in the world.
Yeah, I don't know I wouldn't know if I'd kiss the bricks. It's kind of too Jeremy for me.
Right? I'm not.
He's a little bit of a germaphobe.
Yeah, then you're not gonna do. I've actually faked kissing the bricks, if that counts.
Yeah, for sure. As long as you take the picture and it looks like it, Nowadays you can do boomerang, so it looks like you got it. So
right.
But I can guarantee you, I will never ever have that opportunity, and I never want that opportunity to actually win the Indy 500. No, thank you. I'll watch.
You never know. You never know. So 2010, you join SNY, come to the big city. I want to know, how did that opportunity come about for you? And also, was there any sort of audition process for that?
So my contract was coming up in Indy in after the football season, after the Colts football season. So in August, I got a phone call from Brad Como saying, would you be interested in applying for SNY? I never heard of SNY. I had been wanting to kind of, branch out, but I was happy where I was. So if something came up, and so they flew me in September, my mom's birthday, September 17th. And my younger sister was just graduating from college, and she was applying she's a nurse, to applying to work at NYU Hospital. So she actually had an interview the same time I did. So we were both in the city. She had interviewed. I went. I had to go to SNY. I got my makeup done, which I didn't even know those existed. So I got my makeup. Like, they did my makeup. I had to do a screen test. I met everybody. It was awesome. It was really cool. I didn't really know what the job was for, to be honest with you. They just like, well, we might have a position opening. And I was offered the job 2 weeks later. I couldn't get out of my contract, though, until after the Jets and after the Colts season. Of course, the Colts go to the Super Bowl that year. That's the year they lose. That's the year they lose to the Saints. But it's also the year the Jets played the Colts in the AFC Championship game. Yep. And again, I was replacing Steve Overmeyer. I didn't know that at the time. I will tell you, Steve Overmeyer is the awesome, coolest, most professional human being I've ever met in my life. He was so gracious, so generous, helped me with anything. To this day, we're still friends. Had no bitterness, wasn't angry with, I had nothing to do with it, but he was just a remarkable human being. And to this day, like, I hope I can be as gracious. He did an interview with me. And again, at this point, I had no idea I was taking his position. So, and then I came in, I flew out 2 weeks later after the Super Bowl and started working. So my first official day at SNY was March 1st.
So we asked this question to a lot of people, and it's always a 50-50 split answer. So want to hear your opinion about this.
Okay.
It's a good point, because you just brought up the situation that kind of wasn't really a speed bumper in any way, but your contract situation probably delayed the start of your career here at SNY. An agent. We asked people, half of them say super helpful, was able to get me my opportunities, help me along the way. The other 50% say, I speak up for myself. I always created my opportunities. I'm able to speak on my behalf and do all that stuff. A lot of people say it helps when it comes to the money and the financials, obviously. Do you have an agent?
I do have an
agent then? And what is your opinion and stance on that?
That's a great question. I personally believe it depends on that individual person. I know a lot of people in the business where I'm at that don't have an agent. I know a lot of people that do have an agent. I did have an agent. I've had an agent pretty much my whole career. There's a couple years that I didn't. Brad had reached out to me with the SNY opportunity, but I sent him to my agent because I don't know how to talk money. I wish I did. I wish I knew I could go and defend myself. I wish I knew I could be like, no, I'm worth this. But I let my agent take care of that. I don't do any of that stuff. And so again, if you are able to do that, if you know legal talks, like if you know what your worth is and your value is, then go in there. I recommend people do it. Why have an agent? But I can't do it. I tried one time and it did not go very well. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not. Negotiating and figuring it out, not what I'm good at. So I let someone else who knows that do it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a tricky situation.
It is, and you have to find the right agent for you. I have a great agent right now. Dan's fantastic. We work well together, but I've also had some agents who are horrible and we did not work well together.
Yeah, you gotta know your personality and everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, we had your colleague Michelle Margot on the show, and I asked her this question. She said everybody's a little different. She didn't mention your routine though. When you're coming to the studio, are you coming in a t-shirt and jeans and letting all the makeup being done for you, or are you coming in heels and makeup, hair already done?
Do you see what I look like right now?
Yes.
She's a tomboy.
That's your answer. Yeah, that is your answer. They call me a tornado. I literally come into the station hot mess. People are shocked that I can make the change. So I first of all, nowadays I'm driving an hour from Connecticut because I live in Connecticut, and halftime in traffic through. I mean, I look ridiculous. I don't have it. I never have my hair done. No makeup. I have my Chuck Taylors on. I have sweatpants that don't match. I mean, the other day, my producer making fun of me. I had these sweatpants that were like camouflage. I have my hunter boots on because it was raining out. I had a yellow. He's like, you look ridiculous. He's like, what are you going like to like a camping site? He's like, where are you? I'm like, I don't know. I'll change. I'll look fine. Like, no, I am. If I don't have to be in makeup and I don't have to, I mean, you should see the outfit I'm wearing. Sometimes when I do these Zoom calls with Jets players, like real, I'm like work on the up, party on the bottom.
There you go.
Yeah. Like I'm wearing like, shorts, t-shirts, like, no. If I can get away with Chuck Taylors, sweatpants, hair like this, I am golden.
You got the professionals there to help you out. Might as well take advantage of it.
Exactly. And literally at the second I am off set, I'm like wiping stuff off my face, like chewing with my mouth open, like burgers, like I'm a disaster. Michelle comes. I mean, she is like, I wish I could be like that because like my sister always used to say to me, because I lived with her when I lived in New York City, she's like, you don't know who you're going to meet. Like, you look like a disaster when you walk down the street. No wonder you're still single. Like, you can dress up because, I mean, I would meet people and they were like, is she like homeless? Like, I would have food in my mouth. My hair would be all over the place. I'd have ripped pants on. Like, I'm like, whatever. You get what you get with me.
It's funny. Now, with SNY, let's say for some reason the company decided to do a co-ed softball team. I want to get your thoughts on who would be playing where. Obviously, the given is Moose is going to be DHing, probably batting fourth. Keith Hernandez will be batting third at first base. Ron's going to be pitching. But beyond that, let you fill out the defensive alignment there.
I think Gary Apple would be shortstop.
Okay.
Because he's the general on that field. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Put Eamon at third. No, you know what?
Odziel at third.
Huh?
Odziel, third base.
Oh, yeah. What about catching? I'll be the catcher because that's. No, I'm going to catch. Too bad. I'm catching.
Record could be in the bullpen.
I know he caught in the majors, but whatever.
We got to disqualify the MLB guys. We got to just do the anchors.
I would put let's just do the anchors. I would put Chris Williamson in center field because he can track better.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
So you're catching. Wow.
Yeah, I'm catching. I'll put Maria at second. Eamon at third. Eamon's good on that side of the field. Who else? Who am I forgetting?
Michelle.
Sal. Oh, Michelle would be left. I'll put Michelle in left. I'd put Moose DH in right field.
Okay.
Put Sal at first.
It's a good spot right there.
Who's pitching? Well, we'll put all the major leaguers as the pitchers.
All right, there you go.
She filled it out.
Harper the coach.
Harper's the coach, and Doug Williams. I forgot, where did I put Doug?
Doug's probably like third base coach.
Yeah, I was just gonna say he's coaching.
Pitching coach.
Yeah. Good call.
There you go.
Yeah.
What a squad, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've been covering the Jets here for 10 plus years.
Yeah, and my first year is the only year they made it to the playoffs.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Is it me?
I don't know. Well, they had that 10-year season with Fitzpatrick and Marshall.
Yeah, but we didn't make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, you didn't. They didn't make
and I feel like that is kind of what set you guys back.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
You shouldn't have had a good year that year.
We really shouldn't have.
The Geno punch.
Yeah. A lot of things happen. Yeah, unfortunately, just haven't really been able to get any traction or momentum. But I do like what Joe Douglas is doing. But
I like where you're going right now.
I hopefully I'm liking where they're going too. So recently, they drafted Zach Wilson, right? As somebody who was covering the team now for the last couple of years, I wanted to ask you specifically, how was like Sam Darnold in the room, interview wise? Because I feel like he really kind of got dealt a not so great hand. Kept getting dealt really kind of not bad, like great hands, and he kind of kept playing with them. sometimes you got to roll with the punches. So what was it like covering this team during that kind of situation here for the last couple of years? And to probably expand on this, and you can talk about your time in Indianapolis too. What other players did you enjoy going to for interviews through the years?
Oh.
And you can include coaches too as well.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Sam Darnold. Huge fan of Sam Darnold. I like Zach Wilson. I mean, I've interviewed him a couple times, and I think could be the real deal. I mean, very nice. You know, we did a fun little interview together, and it was just, he had a good time with me. I think they could have kept Sam, but they didn't. It's not my decision. People are a lot smarter and make a lot more money than me. But Sam was always very good in interviews. We did a story about a young kid who had cancer, and he did an interview with me. We surprised it for Dream Day, and Sam was only scheduled to be on the interview for 5 minutes. Sam spent 30 minutes with this guy, like, and was genuinely a good guy. Like, he was excited about it. Like, it wasn't a show, it wasn't an act. Like, the best compliment I can give an athlete or someone like Sam is, I would want my son to grow up to be like that. Like, if my son is like Sam Darnold, I've done something right in my life. I just really enjoyed him as a person. Like I said, I wish him, I think he's gonna do awesome in Carolina. I think he needed a fresh start. I think the Jets needed a fresh start. I love what they're doing right now with Saleh and with Joe Douglas. I like Zach. They're surrounding Zach with good people, because I think you need a strong O-line for a quarterback to succeed. And you need to give him weapons, and you need to help a young quarterback out, which I'm not sure Sam ever got. So like I said, I think they're doing the right thing. I'm excited to see what they can do. Do I think they're going to the playoffs this year? No. I think they're still rebuilding, but that's okay. But they got their O-line. They got Mekhi. They got Elijah. I think they need a little more guys. Like, I like what they're doing, and I like what they're doing with these young kids. And I'm telling you, these young kids are fun. And I'm calling them young kids because I could physically be their mothers. I could have been out of college when I had them. So in my mind, they are young kids.
You've reached that point.
I've reached that level. Yes.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson could be my son, and I could have had him at 22. Okay. That's all I need to say. They're good kids, good quality human beings. Like, they're all team captains. They know, like, I have a story coming out. I don't want to say too much because not a lot of people know. You're just going to fall in love with this guy. Like, you're just going to want to root for him. Like, and that's for me since covering, everybody's like, well, are you a Jets fan? Are you a Colts fan? Who'd you grow up as? Like, who's your team? I don't root for teams anymore. I root for guys, because you generally find good people, like good human beings, like that are fun people. Like, I have a whole list. They laugh at me because every time I interview a guy, I'm like, he's my favorite. Oh my God, he's my favorite. Like God forbid Jeané interviews someone, it's her favorite. I'll be honest, there's very few athletes that I've interviewed that I've walked away like, oh my God, he's a terrible human being. Like, I never want to do that. Like I got nervous. Maybe 10, 11 guys that I'm like, yeah, no, I don't need him. Everybody I've always had, I guess, knock on wood, a good relationship with guys, and they've always been good. I mean, there are some guys you don't want to go interview after a game because A, they're probably in a bad mood. B, they don't give a good bite. But there's also guys who are your go-to guys who will always talk, and to me, I feel I like the guys who talk in the loss more than I like I mean, it's easy to talk when you win. It's when you lose. Those are the guys, like the Sione Bohas, the Mike DeVitos, those guys who came back after, the Willie Colognes, I'm trying to think of some other guys Braylon Edwards, they would always talk regardless of win or loss.
Yeah.
But that's a terrible job, going into a locker room, begging guys to talk after they've got their butts spanked for the 7th consecutive time.
Right. Happens a lot with the Jets. So
yeah.
At least you didn't have to be in no locker room this past season. Everything.
I know. So I think that's where I got my confidence and where I was able to get better, because it's not easy. It's easy to interview the Colts. When I was there for the 4 seasons, I think their worst season was 10-6, and they won a Super Bowl. Like, literally, we're talking 12-4. 14-2 seasons I got to cover, and they lost that game. I mean, the fans would just, oh my God. I'm thinking to myself, Jets fans would like die for like 2 of those seasons. Like, you would die if the Jets went 14-2.
Yeah,
Right?
I'd probably die before maybe they got to the good stuff.
That's what I'd like. You would be like, what,
Be in
what?
disbelief.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Jets fans, they're just waiting for
I know.
their
I feel
savior,
so, I
you
know.
know.
My
But it just they just
breaks
keep
for
messing
them.
it up. You know, Joe should have rolled the punches before. You talked about Geno Smith getting knocked out. The Sanchez didn't work out, and then I blame the Jets here for derailing the Jaguars tight end's career, Tebow. When they got Tim Tebow, the Jets just totally mismanaged that situation. But what was your experience like covering Tebow mania coming to New Jersey?
Was it my second year with the Jets or first year? Second year?
I think it was
Was it- I-
2012 he signed with the Jets.
Yeah, so it was so I was there 2010, 2011. This was my third year. It was, I've never been a more polarizing figure. I mean, these people are obsessed with, I mean, he is like, he was always very nice with me, very pleasant with me, but like, he was like crazy. I mean, it's not as if the guy was a great football player. I mean, there was a lot of other people who had a much more talent than him. And I'm not sure he'll make the roster in Jacksonville.
He's definitely
but
selling a lot of jerseys for the Jets.
well, that's just it. I mean,
And well, you know what's funny, Jeané, is if he didn't, I think he retired from baseball just a little too soon because the Mets would have had to call him up this season with all their injuries. He would have been playing for the Mets.
and he could have done something. But I have never been, I'll keep saying this. He's such a polarizing figure. I mean, he's like a rock star. I mean, and you're just like, I understand why Michael Jordan's a rock star.
Mhm.
It's Michael Jordan. He's one. And Tebow, like I said, Tebow's a great guy. I got to interview him a couple of times. Always very pleasant, very nice. Does a lot for charities. Like, but I still don't understand sometimes I'm like, wait, what? He's been out of football for how long? And these people are still like, again, good for him. You can't hate him.
Yeah.
Got to call like
But
following.
again, I think you're right. I think the Jets probably should have avoided.
I think
Should have taken the detour. Nah, we'll pass.
if he went to another team, he would have been playing longer. I think the Jets, you know, why are you trading for a guy and you want to make him your punt blocker when he's a quarterback? They just didn't know what they would do. That was a disastrous
They got to fill seats.
Yeah.
My battery, just so you know, I only have 5% left.
Okay.
And I don't have my charger with me.
No,
so I
no
apologize.
worries. Here.
But the Mac will last, like, I think I have like 10 more minutes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you've done it all. You've seen Rex Ryan at the end. John Idzik, I mean, what a great era that was of Jets football. Just, you know, not a lot to look forward to a lot of these times you're at the game. So last question here is, when you are covering these Jets games in person, what is your go-to meal? Because you got to be fueled up because it takes a lot of agita in your stomach. It's probably disgusted watching the Jets play.
Now, is this at the stadium?
Stadium.
What stadium am I at? I mean, there's a lot. You open-ended question here. I need to know because food's very important to me. Very important to me.
Press box at MetLife Stadium.
Press box. Okay. I love it when they have the chicken fingers. Is it a day game or a night game? That's
I guess an afternoon game.
Because I was going to say because they have a lot of 1 o'clock games. They very rarely do they have. I love their brunches. There's eggs. I get 2 sausages usually. The little biscuits with jelly. Then I always bring like an apple or an orange. I steal those, and there's sometimes some yogurt. Sometimes they have sandwiches, but I'm not a big fan with the sandwiches. My producer and I always try to drink 1 bottle, like I think like the 15-ounce bottles of water per quarter, because when you're stuffing your face with all this other stuff, you probably need some water to hydrate yourself. And then at halftime, my favorite is when they have the chicken tenders or the pretzels with the cheese. Ooh. Hot dogs aren't bad. The sliders are really good too. Chicken wings aren't bad. I mean, I'm one of 5 kids. Your mother will know. You eat anything that's you put in front of you. Like sometimes, like my producer's like, I cannot believe you're eating that. I'm like,
and if you don't finish it, you didn't eat.
Exactly. I'm like, no, what do you mean? You can't believe I'm eating this. This is so good. I know I can eat it all. I'll be honest with you. But probably my favorite food there would be the chicken tenders with the honey barbecue sauce.
You can't beat any sporting event chicken tenders, French fries.
Yep.
Yeah. So good.
So nobody cares. Work harder. That is the story of Jeané Coakley. We have tracked your career. You've done a great job, especially transitioning and having to do more Zoom stuff and more video calls here during the pandemic. Hopefully, we're in the home stretch here. Hopefully, by the time the fall comes around, we'll have stadiums filled again. We'll have the Jets hopefully taking the next step here and actually building off of something and kind of turning the corner. But you were terrific. We loved your energy. Very, very high energy. Unfortunately, you had a couple of high clouds over there rolling to the background over there, but it's still nicer over there than it is over here. But your battery is draining, and you have a lot of really great outdoors stuff over there to do. So we're going to let you go. Thank you again for doing this with us. We appreciate it. We hope to have you on again soon, hopefully by the time the fall comes around. We always give our guests here the last word. So if there's anything else you would like to share or personally promote, go ahead. The floor is all yours. Thank you again for doing this with us.
Oh my God, it was so much fun. I could talk to you guys all day. I wish I brought my charger to New York with me.
No worries.
One more quick funny story, because you asked about The Last Dance. I always tell this story to show how Michael Jordan and Scott are actually really good friends. Scott had a milestone birthday this year. I won't say what it is. And I did a video for him. 5-0, yep. Scott Burrell turns 5-0. I did a video and I got all of like his former teammates and players and coaches and friends. And of course, I needed the GOAT. I mean, you can't do a video without the GOAT. So Ray, his friend, Scott's really good friend with Ray Allen because they were at UConn, was like, I'll get Michael, don't worry about it. Well, it was getting closer to his birthday and I still hadn't gotten Ray's or Michael's. And I was like, I have his number because it's one of Scott's references on his resumes.
Ooh, wow, good reference.
Yeah, right. So I'm like, and that was actually the same week I had reached out to Ken O'Brien and Al Toon to see if they would do a co-pilot segment with me. So I'm like, these are just human. Like, what's the worst he can do? Like, he doesn't respond back to me. Like, right. So I was Monday. It was a Monday afternoon. I was sitting on my couch. I'm like, okay. So I texted him and I threw my phone down and I pushed after I sent, pushed it and walked away. All of a sudden I hear a ding, like literally 3 minutes later. It was Michael Jordan saying, no problem. What do you need?
Wow.
I was like, just a 15-second video wishing him happy. If you could just hold it horizontally, it'd be great. No problem. Anything for Scotty. What? Sent me the video the next day. Is this okay? Do you need more?
Wow.
And the video was like, Scotty, I know people want to say like you would like to put the narrative, but you were honestly one of my favorite teammates. Come down and play golf, like have a great birthday. Like it was like a 30-second video. I mean, he was on the golf cart. It wasn't horizontal. I mean, I wish he would have been a little better, but I mean, he's the GOAT. So I'm best friends with the GOAT, and the GOAT loves my husband. So there, see?
It's fantastic. And, I'm a producer, so I know about this horizontal vertical stuff. And I can imagine sometimes you're interviewing these Jets players and you're like, can you turn your phone down?
I always do that. I'm like, and when they're like, again, when they're my children, I feel like, can you just turn it this way, please? But when it's Michael Jordan or like Steve Kerr or like Larry Johnson, it's like, guys, I asked you specifically to hold your phone horizontally, but that's okay because you guys are like the GOATs. So whatever.
There you have it. All right, Jeané, we appreciate it. Thank you for your time. So that's going to do it here for this episode of You Know I'm Right. For our very special guest, Jeané Coakley, and for my co-host, Joe Calabrese, I am Nick Durst, and this has been You Know I'm Right.